Welcome back to Never Iron Anything Comics Review Podcast. It's episode 168. Back this week with a mixed but full bag of comics talk. Returning to talk comics is the Dr. Doolittle of Dundee, the Beastmaster of Broughty Ferry, my buddy, comics podcaster and creator, Mr. Tom Stewart. Hello, dude.
All right, pal. How you doing?
Broughty Ferry. Look, I can even say it now that I've been there.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Fucking hell.
How's it going? I know we've just talked. I've just ranted at you for about half an hour, but
it's all good.
Amazing theories of mine. But yeah,
we keep up this illusion at the start of every podcast that this is, we've just come on, and oh, not bad. Yeah, good. Yeah, how are you?
I don't know if you've noticed this, but you have educated the old man that I am in that I sent my first ever voice note to you yesterday.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I did notice that right now, and it was done under hushed tones as well.
Yeah. I said to Mrs. Be quiet, turn the TV on mute. I'm going to send this. She's like, what are you doing? Like that. I said, well, he sends them to me. I thought it was easiest. I thought, to be fair, because you're a bit of as I alluded to it in your introduction, you're a bit of a dog walker. It might work for if you've got your hands free with dog leads and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah.
It is for me because the old WhatsApp, you just hold the button and flick up, and then it just stays on. Right. So I can put it in my pocket and then just walk around with the hands free, like chatting away. But I've stumbled into a problem. That I am outdoors, so if I'm walking around hands free, the wind just gets everything. So 90% of my messages are. So I was, it's gone.
Not annoying in the slightest.
No,
so that's fine. Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
not at all.
Yeah, it's like that person on Teams you have. You go, can you turn your mic up? I can't hear you. It's like that. Yeah, exactly. Constantly.
I do consider it with yourself though. I do tend to pull over and go, Tony's a wee bit older, he might not be able to hear this.
Yeah, it's old bloke Tony. But yeah, you've got me now, so I'll be sending voice notes to everyone who listens to this. They'll be getting a voice note because, to be fair, every listener to this I have in my phone book. That's how popular we are. Yeah.
To everybody out there, you're fucking welcome.
Mike Sadaket, you're getting one later. I'll tell you that now.
Hello, mate.
Good. So we have. It's a different episode this week. We're going to talk about 4 comics. Mm-hmm. We picked 4 random new comics. This is the new releases episode. So none of them are small press. A couple of them are sort of indie. But we're going to go through them. We'll probably announce each one as we get to it. But before that, I just want to talk to you about a few things. First up, I know I checked with you whether you minded me talking about this, but you have announced publicly now that that Comic Smell is will soon, not soon, but soonish, will come to an end. And I say soonish because I know you've got saved episodes. Is that right?
Yes. So we've got raw audio from a couple of years back, really, and there's a couple from earlier on this year that just need to be edited up and put out. And I don't want them to just go to waste. So I will edit them up and put them out. But it just...
It's good news for me, man. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. And that's I didn't want it to just end abruptly either. It'd been kind of sort of petering out here and there, and the episode had got sort of more few and far between. But I had always said, we've got a back catalogue, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I had that in the back of my mind that if anybody was listening, they might be thinking, what's happened to the ones that you had saved up, So I'll stick them out. But then after that's done, it's done. That's it, finished. I'm in 2 minds now of what to do with it because obviously I pay for a subscription for it to stay on as an actual podcast.
Yeah.
But I do have the option to just stick them all up on YouTube and then just leave them up on YouTube.
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I might just do that. I might stop the sort of subscription thing, so they might disappear from podcast apps, etc.
Yeah.
But then I would just leave it up on YouTube, and the archive would always be there, sort of thing. But yes,
this one renewed today. Actually, funny enough.
Did it? Oh, there you go.
I always forget when it is, and then they send you an email. But you're right, and I never thought of that because there's a lot of podcasts that I've listened to in the past, and now you can't find. I remember Round Comics when it first ran.
Yeah,
you just can't find it anymore because it wasn't put on YouTube. But that's a good idea. Yeah, it'll be there for me to listen to over and over again.
Yeah,
you guys.
And the good thing with the YouTube one as well, we had to replace a lot of the intros because there was rights issues with the first few episodes.
Oh, okay.
Which I never understood because we don't make any money from it or anything, never have, and that's the only issue that there would be. But they took umbrage with some of the ones because I'd used like popular tracks for the first like 20 episodes or not
Right.
even that, like 12 episodes or something. But on YouTube, they're still there. They're
Yeah.
still up as the original as intended. I didn't have to change them or anything. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that might happen. Just purely because I don't want to then be, paying for it to stay on,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm
forever
not
in
even,
perpetuity.
yeah,
Yeah, I know what you
I'm
mean.
not even using it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm not going to go into because you've already explained. If they go to the That Comic Smell Instagram and Twitter, I think as well. You've given
No, just Instagram.
just
Just
Instagram.
Instagram. I
You
gave
you
Twitter the
basically
kick.
say why.
Yeah,
So fair enough, man. It's just I'll miss you guys. I know you're still meeting up. You're still the lads. I'm hoping to come up and meet you soon. So
yeah.
the boys are still meeting up. So that's good to know. I'll miss the. I can always re-listen to the gorgeous vocals of Mr. Mike Sadakit. And as always with all of you guys, you're always welcome back here anytime. If you've got something you fancy bringing up. Okay.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well. Okay. Totally up to you, man, and I totally understand. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
everyone does.
thanks, mate. Thanks.
Let's talk a little bit about comics and habits. So you are. So we've. So the chat. We were going to talk about one book. A bit of history on this. We're going to talk about one book which we've kind of put forward now. We're not going to do it quite yet.
Yeah.
And I suggested, why don't we do that? Because we did this, I think, about 2 years ago. I'm going to say.
Yeah, it was actually. It didn't actually seem that long ago, but yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, we picked 4 books and 2 books each, and we talked about them. You proper pulled my trousers down on one of them, which you've done again today, which we'll get to in a bit. But, so we've done that again, but in that we've had to buy digital comics. Now that's something that I do quite commonly. Although I do have reading apps, I use the Marvel, DC, and Global Comics, Viz, Comic House,
Yep.
and a few other reading apps. But it's buying something from Comixology is something you're not used to. Did you want to talk about the procedure? Because we talked about the titles and you went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You're trying to, almost like I'm trying to buy a comic and it won't let me. It's a bit like that, wasn't it? I think you felt.
Yeah, it was because when I initially had Comixology, so I had the actual Comixology app way back when, and you could just search stuff up on Comixology, buy it all into a basket and purchase it. You know what I mean? Just like you would with anything. You put it in your basket, see the total, buy it with your card or whatever.
Yeah.
But my goodness, what a funny about that was. Obviously the Comixology app doesn't exist anymore. That just isn't there. It's Kindle app only, which I did have but got rid of because I wasn't using it. And then I got it again. I went on to the Kindle app to try and find them, searched them up, and they were there, but it comes up saying it's something like, this service is not available on this app or something.
Okay.
Right, okay. So I'm thinking, okay, it's Kindle, it's Amazon, that's fine. I'll go to the Amazon app. I go to the Amazon app, this service is not available. I'm like, come on, to fuck, you know what I mean? It just didn't make any sense to me. So I go in
it's very against the buyer currently.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
I did a quick cursory Google. I had it in the back of my mind that this is what I had to do anyway, but I did a quick cursory Google to double check. And you've got to actually go on the web browser version of Amazon, search the title up, and then buy it. Now, my main problem with that as well that I had was that you literally just click buy and it's done. And that's an issue to me because you could end up making a mistake and buying something by accident.
I've bought many French comics accidentally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, is it not easier if you're going to buy multiple titles to stick them all in the basket and then go, right, that's my total, buy it. You know what I mean? But you've got to do them individually, and it just it's both a bit of a plaster and a pussy and far too convenient at the same point. Like it's both of them, and I'm just looking at that like that's such a backwards way of doing it, and I don't know what you can achieve with that. It doesn't make any sense. Why make them available in the first place to buy them if you're then going to make it so difficult to get? I don't know. It just seemed a total backwards way of doing it, and I genuinely couldn't find another way of doing it because I ended up asking you about the apps. So I said, "Oh, how far behind are the Marvel or the DC apps?" Just out of curiosity. And you were saying they're like months behind or something.
Yeah, so Marvel is 3 months behind. I have the Marvel app. I really rate value for money, and we'll talk about something on the Marvel app later when we get to one of the titles, which is suspiciously too convenient for them pushing the app. But I enjoy the app because there's, for a number of reasons. One, I like reading if I'm away a lot, so I travel about quite a lot. So being able to think, oh, I fancy reading the John Byrne Captain Americas, and they're there for me. But I also, there's a lot of titles now that I don't have in my physical pull list, so I read them 3 months later. So, for example, Moon Knight or something like that, I don't read that.
Yeah.
Don't have that as physical, but I know it's going to be there in 3 months. There's also comics that are just on there, which we'll talk about later. DC has 2 tiers. You can either have the Ultra tier, which is where it's a month later, which I find super convenient because the amount of comics I buy, sometimes I don't get to them for a few weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
So I may as well have just read them on the app these days. There's obviously, I buy a lot of DC titles anyway, but in physical. Or you can have the normal tier, which is 3 months. So I think eventually, when there's enough people on the apps, they'll go day date. Both of them occasionally have day date comics. So at the moment, with the post Krakoa, and we're going to get to it, post Krakoa era, they've put books on the Marvel app that are less than 3 months because they want everyone up to speed for the new status quo.
All right, okay.
The X-Men books.
Yeah.
So this week there were a couple of, I think, Wolverine comics on there and stuff like that. Okay. So there's a bit of that. So it does. I mean, the Storm series with the Alan Davis covers, that was day date on the Marvel app.
Right. Okay.
And I sort of thought about that and mentioned in the Slack to that, and I think it was Mark Abnett said, "Yeah, well, nobody's going to buy that anyway." So yeah, you're probably right, mate. It's a nice thing to say. Oh, look, we're going day date on the app with this, but it's probably because nobody's pre-ordered it. But yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that is stupid. The only thing, sorry, just quickly interrupt. The only thing you're saying about, so when we say about Comixology doesn't exist other than a website that forwards to Amazon.
Yes.
So if you type comixology.co.uk for those in the UK, it forwards you to amazon.co.uk. Now, the search facility on Amazon is shite. There have been how many volumes of, I don't know, Captain Marvel at this point? So if you want to put Captain Marvel number 7 in, you will get fucking lost.
Well, funnily enough, that is where I stumbled with that. Was it Alone in the Darkness or Enter the Darkness or whatever? I can't remember what it was. I did get it, but I can't remember the name of it. But I had said to you, I stumbled into that mistake because the cover was different from what I had previously seen, but it also came up with various other things that weren't that.
Right.
And it even said on that issue that it was available on Kindle or paperback, and it was only £2 dearer. Oh no, £1.50 dearer or something like that. So I thought naturally, oh, that's the physical copy of the book, and I click on it, and it's some other book with the same title by some author, some like self-published thing for an actual just a novel.
Oh, right, okay.
And I'm sitting going, right, okay, so they've even got that mixed up. You know what I mean? So they've got this comic mixed in with some random paperback. You know what I mean?
Let's face it, Amazon could not give a flying fuck about comics. It's not
they
going to
don't
fill
care.
anyone's pockets, is it? Yeah.
No.
They probably care more about, I don't know, fridge freezers than they do about fucking
50-inch tellies.
Yeah. Did I send you that picture earlier of my big new TV compared to the size of my dishwasher?
No.
I'll send it to you in a minute. Back to my theory again. But so the other thing I wanted to ask you about is we're big. You and I, we talk about comics all the time. We both do podcasts, at the moment about comics. It's our big hobby. It's our big life goal. Comics. We're lifers. Yep. How do you find out about new releases? So,
well, this was the thing. I don't now. Like, if I have to find out about new releases, it's either by the newsletter that comes to me from TCJ, from
right.
the Comics Journal, or I have to rely on like Nando or possibly Dave, because Dave will get stuff. Obviously, he finds stuff through TCJ as well, but he actually gets the journal as well.
Yeah.
So he'll talk about some stuff. Occasionally stuff might just get into my view from Instagram, but very rarely. I'm talking like twice a year something will pop into the feed somewhere. But Nando might talk about some stuff with us inadvertently, sort of month on month. And like I say, but it's really TCJ or I'll watch people's things on YouTube or whatever. I was following that Comics Tropes for a while, but not anymore. I was following the kayfabe guys obviously for quite a while.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, Simon Hanselman and Josh Pettinger have
Yeah,
that manga chat, and they occasionally will show stuff as well that I haven't seen, and I'm like, oh, I'll check out that. But that's it. Otherwise, it's I haven't actually looked up like previews online, which is a spotty website at best. Like it comes up, but it loads funny, and there's not all the covers and stuff like that. And Forbidden Planet, my God, what a horrendous website!
yeah,
That is a terrible website. So I can't find anything. So getting new releases, up to date new releases for like the week. That's the first time I've had to actually like venture into it. And that was I had to navigate through the previews website, as you saw from my screenshots.
yeah.
That was navigating through the previews website as best I could, and then using Amazon after that. I mean, obviously, there's no shop near me. The
That's a big
shop
part of it
that's
for you, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah. If I had a shop, I would know.
yeah,
I would be able to go and see the new releases, but we've not had a shop for years now. You know what I mean? And not a working one before that.
yeah.
The ones that were here were dreadful. So it's relying on going to like Edinburgh or Glasgow or something like that. There's not even one in Perth anymore. There used to be one in Perth, but that's gone as well. Um, so that's a big thing. And I think I'd said that to you as well. I would have rather had these titles in my hand, but that's an impossibility. It's never going to
Yeah,
happen.
I know
So I just
The
settle
Kirkcaldy
for it.
one's closed as well, isn't it? I think
Yeah, I think so.
Kingdom
Kingdom
Comics.
Come.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But a lot of these places as well fell to the fact that they just weren't making money from the comics, so
yeah,
they just switched to being like gaming places or
yeah.
whatever. You
Kingdom
know what I
did
mean?
that.
Instead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just it.
It's a
That's
shame,
the way.
man. It's a shame because the main stuff that you are hearing about is clearly the Fantagraphics Drawn and Quarterly crew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it really is, and the it's the fault of two organisations. It's the fault of the comic companies, and it's the fault of the comic shops that
Hmm.
they're not pushing this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I go to Gosh, who they do a weekly mailer that's
Oh, okay.
everything out this week, which I
Nice.
like. I think that's really good.
Yeah, that
Well,
is good.
that's what they should be doing. I still have never had anyone go to me, have you heard this is coming out in 3 months when I've been in there? What's coming out this week is sometimes a little bit of a late suggestion because
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
pre-ordering 3 months in advance. I get the previews emails, which is what's coming out today normally, and a couple of other things. And I'm fortunate enough to go in and out of a comic shop most weeks, so it's not too bad for me. But I am worried about the rest of the world and certainly the rest of this country, of people who are just nowhere near a comic shop.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
but a lot of people do mail order. I know
yeah.
Dave goes through OK Comics, a couple,
Yep.
and I just worry that
Nan Nando
Nan,
gets things. I think he gets a lot of stuff from Forbidden Planet, but
okay,
I could be making that up. I know he goes through a lot of eBay shops, and he
right,
gets previews sent to his house. So he gets
yeah,
the preview catalog sent to his house, and he'll go through it, and he makes orders through eBay. I mean, God, Nando's pretty advantageous when it comes to that stuff. You know
yeah.
what I mean? He'll just
You've
go
got to
for it.
admire the diligence in that. It's like
Yeah,
being an archaeologist at the moment, trying to find what's fucking out.
yeah,
I was thinking about this today. So I was watching something on YouTube, and it was an advert for an upcoming movie that had an advert before it. And I thought, what is
oh,
the fucking point of that? And it's the same
yeah,
with previews. It's a magazine to sell your comics, to advertise what your comics is, but you got to
yeah,
fucking buy it.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
is it not just available to everyone online immediately?
Yep. I've
It's
I've
I know
always
it is available
always
online,
wondered.
but it's not free available online.
No,
You know,
I've always wondered about that. I've always wondered why it costs money to buy the previews. I'm like that would have been like back in the day buying the Argos catalog. That
yeah,
doesn't
exactly. It
make
should
any
just be
sense.
by the door to pick up as you leave
Yeah.
the comic shop. That's what it should be.
I
And I
did.
would pour through it on the train on the way home, and I
Yep.
guarantee you would get extra purchases from it.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy, crazy,
The,
crazy.
the the only other way that I'll find stuff, but only only sort of graphic novels and trades, is surprisingly through the library's comic reading app.
Yeah,
I think it's called like Comic Book Plus or something like that. They're actually up to date. They're not up to date with Marvel or DC, but Image, Fantagraphics, Silver Sprocket, fucking
oh,
all
okay.
of them, they're all on that. and they're all pretty up to date as well. I was really surprised when I found the newest Jim Woodring was up, ready to go within like 2 months of it being
Oh, good.
released hard copy. I was really really surprised. And you get loads of like Euro comics and stuff like that on it.
Oh,
It's
nice.
unbelievable, but they don't have a bit that's they've got a bit that says like new releases, but it's only up for like that month. So any other new ones that go up after that, you kind of have to go and look for, sort of thing.
I must
So
register that. Funny enough,
they
the
are good.
library when we did the recent Kickstarter, we needed somewhere that had like a big desk space to lay everything out because
Mm.
it's like one's for sketching, one's for America,
Yep.
And we rented a room at the library,
Oh, nice.
fucking cheap as chips as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lovely
Yep.
people, brought in some coffee for us to have, and we
Yep.
sat there. It was brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to definitely go back there in the future. It's a great place to rent an office space.
I love the library for getting stuff like that. I mean, I was I think I'd said to you I'd been in a wee bit of a sort of comics rot. I'd been reading stuff but not really finding it interesting and stuff like that. And I just browsed their entire catalogue of what they had and just picked like 10 titles, 10 random titles to try and spread the genres out and see what I liked. And I'm not joking. Within like a day, I had 10 titles just sitting waiting to pick up. You know what I
Oh,
mean? I'm like,
nice.
that's brilliant. It's that's so much more of an efficient way of getting things than getting something digitally. How is that possible?
No.
You know what I mean? That doesn't make
Yeah,
any
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
It's quicker for me to go through 2,000 odd books on a catalogue on a council website for a public library, and get it the next day than it is to go through Amazon for a digital title. That's insanity.
It's. I compare it to when I have to teach at work, and if I said to the students, in order to get the material that you have to read for the next lesson, you have to go to this website, order it, then go to another reading app in order to download it and read it. They wouldn't fucking do it.
Yeah, yep,
And
yep.
that's something they have to do for a lesson. So God knows how people continue reading comics by having to do it. It is
Uh,
arduous. It is a pain in my arse every time I do
it
it.
is.
The Marvel app and the DC app are pretty good. The Global Comics is a good service.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I agree, man. Right. Okay, let's not, because I knew what would happen. We're already 20 odd minutes in.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first one. So I'm going to lead on the first one. So we're talking about Joe Matt's Peep Show number 15, published posthumously. And it is, the last one came out, I believe, Peep Show 14 came out in 2006. So it's been 18 years since the release of the last issue. A little summary of what happens in it. It's the same, very much the same. He's now moved to California to pursue his plans about making a move, from making a movie or a TV series out of his comics. And it follows again his obsession with pornography, his obsession with comics and films, and his obsession with younger women from the East.
Yes.
What does he refer to it as? Is it yellow fever or something? Is that what they call
No,
it?
he calls them like an Asia file or
Asia
something
file.
like that.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Problem. Both dodgy phrases.
Yep.
But in many ways he's the same obsessive. His life and his sex life is very very out there. He comes across again as a fiercely selfish man, a sexual addict, and what it does include in it, it has his leaving do, which, because he's part, for those that don't know, Joe Matt is part of what's called the Toronto Three, which is Chester Brown, Seth, and Joe Matt, all centre around the Beguiling and TCAF in Toronto.
Yep.
And it has Seth's leaving speech, which doesn't go down very well at his leaving do. What's your history with Joe Matt? Had you read before?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got a run of Peep Show up the
Right.
stairs. I think a complete run. I also have the Poor Bastard and sugar. There's
Fairweather? S- Spent?
Yeah, not spent. Fairweather, I think is the other one I've got. It's got the kids on the front, like
Yeah,
digging a
Fairweather,
hole.
that's the one.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
It's been that long since I've read it. I forgot the bloody name of it. But yeah, so I've got that. But I have read Spent as well. That was his last forte before the big hiatus.
Yeah.
And there was a strip that appeared in the anniversary, Drawn and Quarterly. thing that I've got upstairs as well. Now, I like Joe's work. I like his line. I like his character representation, but him as a character in his books is highly unlikable.
Yeah,
Um,
purposefully, I think.
yeah, but I think
Yeah,
I think
almost
purposefully as well.
confessionally. It's almost a confession that he isn't likable, isn't it?
I think it is as well, and I think he makes himself out to be a hell of a lot worse than he actually was as well, because I don't think that people would like him near as much as they did if that was actually how he was. You know what I mean? Um, I think that sometimes a lot of the stuff is played up to seem a lot worse, but I know that. I mean, early days Peep Show, the first like what 1 or 2 issues or something, he was like he beat his girlfriend in the
Yeah,
in the issues, and I'm sitting going, God, is that true? Is it not? There's no confirmation, and you've just got to kind of pick up on like stories that you hear going along the years or whatever from odd interviews from cartoonists that knew him and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You don't get the hard and fast. You get what's written in the pages of Peep Show, and that's it. Um, but the fact that it's so frankly honest and it is so dark as well, I do think like, why would you lie about stuff like this? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's he's a highly unlikable character, but I think the way Joe has always structured and told these stories, they're just far too compelling. Like I still find myself still reading, even though I sit cringing at some of the stuff that he's got. I'm still compelled to keep going and still keep reading it. And I think it's just because obviously he's a bloody good cartoonist. Well, he
yeah.
was. He was a bloody good cartoonist. He was a really
That's where
good
it lays for me, I
cartoonist.
think. Yeah, I,
Um,
I just love the way he draws, and
yep.
everything's stripped back, but he can show emotion and frustration and
Mhm.
anger and everything. He's one of those sort of angry cartoonists, of which we'll get to in a second for another one. But
Yes.
and you're right. I think Autobio Comics suffered for many years, and I think this is changing again now. Especially when we spoke about Jay Webster Sharp's work on the ACP this week,
Mm.
I think it's become more truthful, where it was more I'm writing to be admired recently. But I think with him,
Yeah.
he really does. I sense that he puts it all on a plate ready for the reader, but he almost also kind of exaggerates it a little bit,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
But then again, out of the Toronto Three, he's not the worst. Chester Brown did a whole book about paying for prostitutes. So, which is extremely
Yeah.
dark. But he does that. Now, we've discussed this. We've talked about this a little bit and hinted about how we felt about it. I'll put out what I think, because I don't want to sort of prejudge what you think. So, I enjoyed it. I like his cartooning. It didn't feel, and I wonder whether this is because I'm now an older man. It didn't feel as, I suppose the easiest word is funny, as it did
Yep.
previously. I
Yep.
felt that there was a nasty element to it. It did worry me. Certain pages of it did strike me as worrying, and the main page is he goes online and searches for women, girls, young girls of 18 who are into comics, and he
Yep.
finds one who is clearly naive, who sends him Polaroids or photographs of herself, not undressed but very close to being undressed.
Yes. Underwear or like sportswear sort
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
And just that page, do you know, I almost sent you that page then. I thought I don't want to have that in my sent folder.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
dirty having sent that picture.
I get that. Yeah.
And I'm a man who'll read anything, but the part of it had me going, I don't like this now.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but some of it. I'm like, God bless him, he's passed away and everything, but I didn't like a lot of it, and I think one of the main reasons is the talked about, not talked about elements of people like Ed Piskor, but mostly the allegations against Neil Gaiman at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Sleeping with fans.
Yep.
Which is what Joe Matt does in this. One of the main relationships he has is with a fan.
Yep. Which he also says that he slept with a couple of fans in the pages. What is it?
The top 10 pages.
10 women. Yeah, 10 women or something like that it's called.
Yeah.
10 women. And there's a couple of them in there that are fans of his as well that he's met. Um, but even the young girl that he does meet, there's just like a weird implication. Like she says, like I've read your stuff, and like later on, and I know all about the pea jars and all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff in your porn collection and stuff. And I'm sitting going, ah, man,
yeah.
he was always an unlikable character and somebody that you couldn't actually fully sort of relate with, but on a sort of human level, at some bit, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I get this. I didn't relate with them in this one at all, and you're right. But there's also
We shouldn't have to like them. I think.
no,
Sorry,
no, no, not at all.
can I speak?
No.
And when I say the Neil Gaiman thing, I know the allegations against Neil Gaiman are involving violence, and
Yes.
I don't think he was at all. It was absolutely consensual, according to his accounts, Joe
Yes.
Matt in this. But I don't think you have to like characters to read about them. The example used in the fact the other day was Judge Dredd. We don't like Judge Dredd. He's an authoritarian,
Yeah.
future right wing, beats people up, but executes them. But I don't think with him you have to like him. But there was an element previously where it was funny and purposely funny. It wasn't just dark, and there
Yeah.
was a couple of pages there that I kind of felt were meant to be. No, I don't know. So let me just sorry, just put this into words quickly for you, because I think part of it thinks me this is funny, and then I look at the page of the young girl's photographs, him looking at them, and I think, is this confessional? Because it is a lot of it. A lot of what he's talking about is
Hmm.
confessional. But is there another layer to the confessional here?
You mean like almost, I don't know,
Almost an admission.
yeah, almost trying to he's trying his best to explain himself, but also to be like, but this is why or whatever, but also trying to get across. Yeah, possibly. I I think it just doesn't help as well that he did die, so there's no finality to any of it
Yeah,
at all. You don't get any follow-up. You don't get anything else. You don't get how anybody felt about it really, except from that one guy in the background or whatever. You don't get anything else of what happened with the relationship or if anything else happened. There was loads of panels at the end of those pages they kept saying like will be continued, and then it never continued. It never went anywhere because obviously he died. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we never got anything. He died whilst doing this, so much so that Chester had to
He inked
ink.
a few pages, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he inked 3 pages,
yeah.
and you can tell as well because Chester's got a thinner line than he does. Um, but it's just I don't know. None of that sat well with me at all. And I think I said to you at the time, I was like, right, I've read it, but I really don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And I remember saying that, like, I borrowed these from Dave. So I borrowed Peep Show and Hate from Dave. Um, and we, I said to him, I was like, what did you think of it? And he was like, oh, but it was much of the same. It was great, etc. And then I gave my points about it not being sort of finalized, and I didn't know how I felt about it.
Hmm.
And he'd said, "Well, you never really know how to feel about Joe in those things, though, do you?" And I'm going,
Yeah, there's truth to an
"I
element.
guess it's
Yeah,
I guess it's
that is
true.
true in a way. Yeah, and I know
You you don't,
we don't know what people are like. We don't know what they're showing, what they're not showing. But I just kind of found that moment to be, and a lot of the rest of it, where he talks about his history. I know it's almost a recap of Peep Show.
yeah,
And you think, he's in his 40s now. Well, he's not. Was he in
so
his,
he was 60th year.
yeah, much older when he drew this. And I'm thinking, he's in his 60s, but still chasing 18-year-old girls. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
man, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's because I'm massively cynical, and you know my background and everything. But
yeah,
it's because
yeah,
I'm massively cynical from a professional sort of point of view, and I just kind of it left a sour taste in my mouth where I hoped it wouldn't.
yeah. I get that. I totally get that because it's not.
But
I
purely
don't know.
personal, other people can take it in other ways.
Yeah, no, I. It's funny because I was desperate to read it with it being Joe's last entry sort of thing, and funnily enough, I didn't have massive correspondence with him or anything like that, but we'd spoken a couple of times on social media,
All right.
nothing extensive. It's just like highs, blah blah blah. He'd put a picture up and I'd be like, oh great picture or whatever. Oh thanks, I did such and such. That sort of
Oh,
thing.
nice.
Nothing like I
Yeah.
say, nothing extensive. But he also, I think he commented on one of the podcast things once or something like that a
Oh,
long, long time
lovely.
ago.
Yeah,
Long
yeah.
time ago. Um, so I felt like I really wanted to see the end of it and stuff. I quite liked him from what he showed and all this kind of stuff and what I'd heard about him and from reading Peep Show over the years. Um, but I just don't know how I feel about it
Yeah.
at all, and I don't think I would own this copy. I will be given I will be given this back, having
I'm not
borrowed
trying to
it
get one.
and
Yeah.
read through it, and I
It's
don't think
impossible
I'll
to
be going to
find.
get one.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's
I
not an
know,
easy.
I know.
We both tried to buy a physical copy, and
Yeah,
I even asked in. I was chatting to Greg in Gosh a couple of weeks ago, or last week, and I said, "Look, have you got any copies anywhere?" And he said, "No, it's really difficult to find. It's sold out."
yeah,
And I said, "I can't because with Hate, which we're going to talk about in a minute, the reprints came out really quickly, and
yeah,
this, and I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
it's suspicious that it sold out so quickly, and there's no reprints of it." And I said, and he said, "Yeah, that is weird." And I said, "I wonder if it's something to do with the whole sleeping with fans thing." And Greg just
The,
hadn't occurred to him. He said, "Oh, it could be. Yeah, I don't know." But just I wonder whether that's a reason.
the thing that was quite strange about it as well that Dave pointed out to me was that all of his other works have been printed by D&Q. This is
Right.
Fantagraphics.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it hadn't occurred to me that either. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all of his other stuff is drawn in quarterly. Every single one of them, Spent, everything, all drawn in quarterly. But this last one is Fantagraphics. Now, I don't know if that's because I think it's Chris Oliveris or something like that that was head of D&Q. He stepped down years ago.
Right. Okay.
And I wonder if maybe his thing was with Chris directly, and then after he moved away from Canada, etc., he just and Chris stepped down. That's his tie with Drawn and Quarterly cut off or something like that. I don't know, but that struck me
Okay.
as odd as well. And I know Hate comes from Fantagraphics as well, so
Yeah.
that was when it was going like that doesn't make any sense to me. So possibly your theory might hold on that. So
Yeah, yeah. Because Hate came out very quickly. Right. Let's move on to that. That's a bit
yeah.
of a it's a bit of a Debbie Downer, that one, as they would say. So let's talk about Hate Revisited 1 and 2. Did you want to just give a line summary of what they're about?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hate literally just picks up where Peter Bag's series left off, effectively. We're just so many years into the future, and we're recapping early memories of Buddy Bradley and his wife Lisa, and just basically turning over stones that we haven't seen before in the history, and recapping little bits that we didn't really know of, but also continuing on stories of them meeting old friends and going around their house and
Much older. Yeah.
speaking to his son a lot older, but still looking and acting exactly the same as
Yeah.
Buddy and Lisa from years ago. And that's what I loved about it, was the fact that this was just Peter Bagg being like, I've got the itch. I can feel Buddy's stories coming out of me again. Let's do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And people have been asking for it for years. Years. People have been saying, let's bring Buddy Bradley back. And I think it also didn't help as well that you had the Bradleys and stuff before that, and then you got Hate, etc. So there was that kind of step in time, and Buddy did age as it went on, etc. as well. So it was a sort of natural thing to go, let's bring it back. So as soon as Hate Revisited was announced, it was like, oh, this is going to be interesting seeing it. And it's the same sort of anarchic front cover and all the gangly legs and everything.
Elastic faced people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And although I think his line has completely changed in his interiors, I feel like he's a lot shakier than he used to be. A lot of the hair and stuff looks a lot shaggier and stuff now.
Okay.
There's a lot of a shakier line to it.
Okay.
Well, I personally think so.
Yeah.
It's not as smooth as it used to be.
Okay.
But even though that is the case, it's still I mean it's exactly what you would expect from
We're
Hate.
just
If
coming
you
home
like,
again, aren't we, on that one?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you read Hate years ago and you want more, bang. You know what I mean? Like there's no difference. It's so good. I found myself actually laughing as well, which was what I've not had a good proper laugh at a comic book in a while. There was just odd lines that Buddy would say, and I would just honestly, I'd be cracking up. He had one. There was a bit about voting, and he goes on about like
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
what is it? He's like, what's with all this choose sides crap? Can't a fella just go be nothing these days? Is that too much to ask? And it just, but
There
I
is a
said,
real commentary on current state affairs
oh
from just
yeah,
Mr. Outsider, reasonable bloke, isn't it? Buddy is still that fucking angry outsider, but
yep,
I kind of, in my older age now, relate a bit more to him.
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny because Buddy grew up with all these odd characters over the years, and his best friend. Spoiler for anybody who reading hate, but his best friend, roommate shooting himself and all this kind of stuff, and his brother being mental and all. Everybody's mad and crazy around him. He was actually pretty sane compared to everybody else. I mean, he wasn't
He
the
did a
sanest
lot of
in the
stupid
world.
stuff,
Yeah, he did stupid stuff.
He was more the everyman, wasn't he, than that?
Yeah, he was, and he's him and Lisa have tried to do their best to be as normal as they can. You know what I mean? And it shows in a lot of the stories and stuff that they recap in this as well, that they have tried to stay sort of fairly normal as it's went. Lisa can be a bit mad every now and then.
Yeah. She was always trouble, wasn't she? From the start, you think they please don't end up with her, but
Yeah. I think she's brilliant though. She's got some of the greatest lines in this as well. She's hilarious.
When she goes crazy, when she goes angry at him, and some of the best scenes. Yeah, always have been. I think the thing as well. So the bits are in black. For people who haven't got it, the bits that are in black and white are the flashbacks.
Yes.
So it's like we get the moment he first meets Stinky, and the bits in the colour in the present, or the more modern stuff, not necessarily completely present day, because Pete Bag, if it is autobiographical, is much older than Buddy in real life. But so there's a character called Spam who turns up in the modern day, who is clearly, it's a switch and bait, because you're meant to think that's his son's version of Stinky.
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the end of issue 2, you think, oh no, he's not. I wonder whether his son is the version of Stinky.
Yeah.
It's so well done. I mean, I kind of think this is, when I think of you guys up in Dundee, I think this is perfection. This is the one I always think the four of you sit round reading and chuckling over. This is kind of just perfect, that comic smell kind of fodder for me.
I would say so. It's got, do you know what? It's got everything that you would actually want in a comic, because it's not too overwrought. There's not anything like big, massive, buck off splash pages that need to be intertwined into some comic that was done bloody 4 series ago or whatever. It's baseline, panel, next panel, next panel, next panel. It's beautifully confident drawn art, and just a simple ass story with some great dialogue. You know what I mean? There are thought bubbles in this. I mean, I cannot overstate enough how good it is to have a thought bubble.
It's a bit like something like Fabulous Freak Brothers, or even Crumb, or someone who's the nearest for him is you can just pick up an issue and read it. You don't need to have read everything. That's not.
No, you get dropped into that. You get dropped into that little bit of Buddy's life. You know what I mean? Anytime you pick up an issue, I find myself. I've got the big omnibuses that they printed. I've got them upstairs. I got them cheap on eBay, so I was quite happy.
Yeah, that's the one I took with Dave on. We did a podcast. Me and Dave did a hate podcast about. Yeah.
But you can drop into any of them at any point, and you're just like, oh, right, we're off. You know what I mean? And Dave always says that about hate as well. He's like, oh, we're off. Every time we're off. That's it. We're off and running. And that was the first thing he said when Hate Revisited, when he said it. I says, "Oh, how is it?" And he goes, "Oh, we're off again."
Yeah, I think I read it. I read the first issue when I was away in America, and I think I put on the Slack group, "It feels like being home again."
Yeah,
it was back great. In it again. I know he quotes Mad Magazine as being a big influence on him, Bag, and I almost feel like he's gone in the Mad offices and said, "I want to do this story called Hate about this geezer called Buddy," and they've fired him out the window, and he's landed in Hate Ashbury, and he thought, "I'll just do it here instead." And he kind of, because it's very Mad Magazine, but it's also very Crumb-like. There's a I do love it, man. Yeah, good. So far that's a hit. So that's one hit, 50-50. Yeah,
50-50. Yeah.
Right, moving on. Because we're late, but so this is where we start pulling each other's trousers down in the nicest possible way.
Oh, good damn me.
This was my choice. This is, I think, vying for being the worst. X Factor 1, the new series of X Factor. I don't know how many there have been, but there have been a few. A new team is formed as a reality TV / TikTok business venture run by a sleazy manager. And they go on a mission, doesn't go well. Spoilers, by the way, everyone. By the end of it, there's a new team and there's a couple of them dead. Covered by Greg Land and Frank Diamata. to be fair, the cover was the best bit for it. And I'm not a massive Greg Land fan, but I thought it had something about it. I quite liked the
Yeah, it
cover.
was all right. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. You had me going there for a minute when I saw it. I thought that's all
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's not
yeah,
bad.
nice, solid, iconic
Yeah.
tribute cover.
Had all the characters on the front and it said X Factor. There wasn't really much else going on.
Yeah,
Cracking. I
yeah,
mean, no big massive advertisements or any shit telling me about some fucking movie that was coming out or
yeah.
something. No, it was pretty straightforward. You're right, mate.
And
And it was even into the second page. I was thinking, hey, we might be okay here. There was a memoriam to Don Perlin that was
yes, it
actually
was. That
okay.
was lovely.
I was like,
Yeah,
that's great. That's fantastic. And then yeah, you're fucked after that. Even the contents pages
the
after that, I
contents
was like,
is a
oh,
diabolical design mess.
it's awful,
It,
awful.
it just looks awful. So
Yeah.
credit the people. So when I saw it, I thought, oh, Mark Russell's written this. I like Mark Russell's work.
Yep.
He did Snagglepuss, which I think is actually one of the best comics of the last 10 years. Really good. He did the One Star Squadron, which I thought, that's okay. He's done some Red Sonja, which I thought was okay. Then I thought Bob Quinn, fairly basic for me. Fairly unrendered art. No real shading. Uses colour a lot to carry the story. He's done some James Bond, Miss Marvel, Uncanny X-Men, Green Hornet, stuff like that. So I thought, whatever. Colours by Jesus Abertov, editor Darren Shan, who is not the bloke who writes books, is he?
I don't think so.
Isn't Darren Shan like a YA horror writer? It's not the
Yeah,
same.
yeah. I don't think it's the same person. If it is, then oh fuck.
No, I don't think it is. Yeah, yeah,
That's his wee side hustle is doing.
yeah. So it feels. So I've written down. So in my notes, I've said it feels very generic. Everyone strays massively into caricature. The team that changes is made up of Angel and some other people. Here's some of the dialogue. I wrote down X Factor could be as big as Frappuccino. I felt like emptying my veins in the bath. There's a company called Clickbaits who are running a red carpet. They go on the red carpet, and then there's a version of TikTok which they call Click Clock.
Oh yeah, Click Clock.
And I'm like, who's this written for? Idiots. You know, it's almost like someone has sat at home and all they've watched is I don't know if the Entertainment Channel still goes, but they've just watched Twitter and the Entertainment Channel, and they've written a very generic story about comics being a reality TV show.
Yeah.
Which has been done massively before. I know you referenced one which was from 35 years ago.
Yeah, the Strike Force Morituri.
Yeah.
Yeah, which might add, I just noticed there he even says at one point, I'm building you an elite strike force at one point. And I actually looked at him and went, oh, for fuck's sake. So are they actually referencing Strike Force Morituri in it? It was very, like, this comic was Strike Force Morituri, but shit. You know what I mean? Like, it was just awful. It was absolutely bloody awful. It just didn't make any sense. Like, I found myself loads just going the next page and going, is this really what they're going for? They're going to do like red carpet events and TikTok shit.
And they've
like,
got a PR manager who is the PR manager or the manager of a super team is one of the most overused tropes in comics.
Yeah, big time.
Since the Justice League Wahaha days, it's just a mess and it's always the same.
Yeah, except this one kind of looks like Matthew Kelly. As I said
yeah, Roger Broderick. I wrote his name down.
Yeah.
I've also written next to him, obvious and boring. I'm sorry about that, Roger. It's
such a weird design choice to have him just have a random like black streak through his hair. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know what that achieves. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why you would just not make him a grey-haired man.
Yeah.
I thought, what is that like hip? Is it meant to be cool? I don't get that.
And to have the whole sort of him in front of the American flag stuff at the start, I'm thinking they've done this so many times. I mean, Running Man, Max Headroom, all these things have done it so many times, and this is just doing it badly.
Yeah, the artwork was just, as well as I was making my way through it, was like, God, this is just generic computer crap. Like, anybody could have popped this into like one of those, what are those things called, the AI generator things?
Yeah, ChatGPT
like,
or something. Yeah,
yeah, Yeah, give me red carpet event, guy in suit and some superheroes. Crowd is slightly angry. Boof. You know what I mean? I'm
I,
like, oh, there we go.
I was chatting to Pete earlier, Pete Watson, and he was saying, I wonder whether an editorial direction to do this, and I wonder whether, because I really like Mark Russell's writing. I think that Mission to Mars book I read, it was one of my books last year, and I read it and I think, I wonder whether they just said to him, we need like a celebrity team and it's going to be X Factor. Can you write it? You've got a week. I wonder if it's that, no thinking time involved. He's just had to sort of do this like really obvious thing straight away.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem. It doesn't seem like. I don't know if he's. I don't know if he's maybe written something roughly similar or something that's not been as good quality recently. But the man wrote Prez and stuff before, and what he's going to do something that's kind of not that far off it, and like, but
yeah. But
kind of just
really
subpar.
obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, just I don't know. It stinks of just a rush job, definitely.
I've been reading. I read all the X books, and I've read all the new raft of X books. This is not the worst for me. I really didn't like NYX. I think the best one recently has been the Gail Simone X-Men that came out this week. Which I actually thought was okay.
All right,
Not
okay.
brilliant. I mean, you'll know because you listen to the ACP, but we went nuts for the Krakoa Hickman X-Men when we started, and I loved it for the first maybe 1 or 2 years. I thought it was brilliant stuff, it kind of showed showed Morrison what he should have been doing in the X-Men.
Freudian slip there.
Yeah. It showed Morrison, who I kind of like his X-Men run, but I think Hickman sort of showed him that this is the plan you should have for it, and it took it in a whole new direction. It lost its way a couple of times, but I really think that they're writing these issues now. I think there's been an editorial direction to write them for a younger reader,
Right,
and dumb them down. And I think
it certainly seems like it because there's no thinking involved in this at all, not in the slightest, and not that there has to be. It doesn't have to be. This is the thing. It doesn't have to be some mad, like, a really intelligent piece or anything. You know what I mean? But just give it something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that there's nothing to this. See, I kept expecting it just at some point to turn a page and go, "This is where it gets good." No, it just didn't happen. There was no point where it suddenly clicked or anything. It just was awful.
It's a strange switch and bait. So for those that read it, it's not really a spoiler because it's on the cover. Because you start off with one team. By the end of it, a couple of them are dead, and you've got another team in the last few pages. But that last few pages team is shown on the cover.
Yeah.
So you know it's coming. All you do is you're reading this thing, and why is Havoc not in this team?
Yeah.
And then you get to the end and go, oh, there he is. It's like they've done this a few times recently. That David Papose did it with Punisher, where the new Punisher series, which was dog shit, man. He had say how it is, but he had the picture of the Punisher on the front of the comic, and then he had the Punisher in shadow for the first half of the comic. So you're not meant to know. And I'm thinking, I know who it is. He's on the cover, which is the same trick he incidentally used on Space Ghost, but recently as well. But you're like, we know what's happening here. All I'm doing is waiting for it to finish so I can get to the new team. We knew that something was going to happen. Yeah. Okay. So I'm saying we've got Hate, Peep Show, X Factor at the moment in a totem pole of how good they are.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Okay. Did you introduce our final choice?
Yes. So I went for Action Comics number 1068. And this was something. This was Superman in some sort of alien gauntlet where he's picked as a champion for Earth, effectively.
Yeah.
And once again, lo and behold, after he beats the challenges, is then challenged to protect Kandor once again from a set of aliens who are placing bets. There was a whole thing about betting in this that seemed to be made out to be bigger than it actually was. It didn't. There was a whole thing about like, oh, the top thing here is currency, etc. We it's all about betting, but there's not a single unit or money or anything exchanging hands in any of the pages. So that made no sense to me. Why they made a big deal of that? They went on about money all the time, but I didn't see a dime, not a note anywhere. I saw somebody drinking, an alien drinking.
Yeah.
but that
there's a not too bad alien bar scene, isn't there?
Yes, and
let's
yeah,
give the credits. Let's give the credits quickly.
I was going to quickly say,
Okay.
and there's a backup as well.
Yeah, which we'll get to in a minute. Let's get yeah. Which that's get yourselves ready for that one. So writer Gail Simone, pencils Eddie Barrows. I've got an Eddie Barrows. I'll send you a picture of it. Green Arrow commission. Big up one on my wall here. Inker Danny Mickey, colours Rex Lewis, cover by Eddie Barrows, Danny Mickey, and Tom and Maury. I really like the cover. Thought the cover was brilliant.
Yeah, now that's what pulled me in was the cover. It's Action Comics, and it's him undressing from Clark Kent to Superman and flying off and against a speeding train.
Speeding locomotive. It's just
absolutely
cover.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It was a great cover, and I was pulled in straight away by it. And I love Superman.
Okay.
Although I just don't think he's been done very well in a good while. But I love Superman, so I was really looking forward to reading this. And
now, to me, not as bad as the backup. First story is better than the X Factor story for me. Gail Simone, I kind of think they've got Gail Simone in for maybe 3 issues. This is what I'm guessing. I don't know this for a fact. To do a Superman story in and out. So we've got this 3-issue Superman in a tournament.
Right,
thing.
Okay.
I think a lot of the dialogue was terrible. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I sent you a couple of screenshots we won't necessarily have to get into, but I don't think Lois and in the first story Lois didn't come across as believable to me. In a couple of scenes in the bar when you got your husband, the love of your life, his life's in danger, and you're bickering in a bar.
Funnily enough, as well, I think she was illustrated too childlike as well.
Okay.
I think I said to you that literally looked like a child and her dad having a kiss, and I was
liked it when she it did when she ran in.
Yeah,
I like the fact that she lets her guard down a little bit because she's kind of giving it the big un, and then she lets her guard down and can't keep her hands off him because she's so worried about him. But you're right, the drawing of it wasn't brilliant. You're right, it's like a kid running across the room to greet their dad.
It really was, and even the embrace that they've got when he's sort of looking at her, I'm like, that. If they had put that image of those two, and the previous panel had been a girl away to fall off a building or something, and that was Superman away to catch them, like an accident, it would have been believable. Would have been totally believable that was just Superman grabbing some random small child that was away to fall or something. And I just looked and thought, that's not right. Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. After us talking about Peep Show, and then all of a sudden, I'm looking in these pages and going, God, Superman's turned into some.
Maybe
weird...
it's just the world, man. Maybe
possibly.
we're just affected by the world.
It was just weird, but then I saw her and Jimmy as well, and just looking at they look like kids, like they do really look like kids. Now I know he's not meant to be Superman's not meant to be ancient or anything, but he looks considerably older, drawn considerably older.
Yeah, there's a couple of panels I went ooh, and I'm not sure that's down to the art. I mean, I know Barrows is like a massive DC regular, has been for years, and Danny Mickey is like a regular inker for a lot of the big guys. But there's a couple of panels I thought the looks a little bit rough, not undetailed, a lot of rendered pages. There's some big, like for example, that bar scene we mentioned earlier, loads of characters in it, and I can see this if they put it into like a short trade collection, it would be it'd be okay. It'd be all right for a new Superman reader, really. It's okay. I see what she's doing. She's trying to make this. Gail and the editorial are trying to make this story that's accessible to everyone. To full admission, I dropped the Superman titles about a year ago after the War World thing, which I really liked. I thought was the best it had been for a while, and then it just went into like 400 Supermen, and I was bored by it. But I think we do need that. It's almost like a bit of a return to the basic Superman, Lois and Jimmy thing, which I kind of like that she's done that. But there was some flaws in dialogue. I think we really need in this world of comics to get away from everything is a fucking snarky Joss Whedon style conversation. I know we talk about this a lot on the Slack, but everything is about. I saw this quote on Twitter recently. I hate Twitter, but I saw it saying something like, man goes to war and realizes that people who shoot people don't talk like they do in Avengers movies. And I think, can we just for once have something of a realistic conversation in a comic? And when X Factor we didn't get it, and this we're not getting it.
Yep. I don't know. I think it doesn't help that it was part 2 of 3.
Yeah.
So that was really. I kind of felt a bit left out, but you should be able to drop in at any point. I can drop into that issue of Hate at any time and be able to pick it up. And yet that's a long ongoing story.
Yeah.
But I can understand what's going on at any point. This, I don't have a clue. I think I'd said to you previously, I felt like Jimmy actually had something else to do with it because, I mean, it's him that Lex Luthor gets a hold of on his watch. It's him that they're like addressing when like Lois is addressing about everything that's going on. She's like, "What's happening now?" Blah blah blah, and he's telling all this stuff, and they're on top of a building and stuff. And I'm going, "Well, how did they get there? And why is she asking? Yeah, why is she asking Jimmy?"
There's a lot of narrative structure problems with this. For example, the one I thought of it immediately is the one you just mentioned when Lex Luthor calls him on his watch. But to fully explain what was going on in that scene, they needed a close up of the watch.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, you have to kind of explain it in words, and it's very clunky and expository.
It was,
yeah.
And there's that opening couple of pages as well with the credits on it. I didn't really know what was happening. Like Superman seems to be standing on something, and there's lots of explosions and a building or a ship and a weird tentacle creature, and there's the city, but it's below us, like underneath as opposed to on the top. And I'm going, what is this? Like, I don't.
Yeah, the way that was drawn was totally confusing. There was so many ways you could have drawn that to have shown it.
It was like upside down and everything, and none of the dialogue boxes, none of the boxes that were there told us anything.
Yeah,
it was just like, there's a strike that's going to happen. Blah blah blah. That's great. What to what? Like, what is it? Metropolis that's below us? Is it what is it? I don't understand what's going on here. And then 2 minutes later, it's like, some massive alien being like, "Oh yes, let's get the calamity underway."
It may as well have been the alien out of what's that Star Quest? What's that fucking piss take on Star Trek that's got the bloke from Home Improvement?
Oh, Galaxy Quest.
It may as well have been the alien from that.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Oh, Gore of Gornanor, and he's called Gorlanar, and all this sort of thing. But the one, try and guess the one line in this that I've made me shout out loud, annoyed.
Oh God.
I'll tell you. So there's this scene where the general public helps Superman out of the river, and he's done for, and he's lying on this slab, and they're all round him. You remember this bit?
Yep.
Which is this sort of, the people love Superman, they'll help him, and they lay him out, and then somebody says, "Oh, should we lift his legs up, elevate his legs?" And someone goes, "Why would we do that?" And he says, "I don't really know." And then someone says, "Would you like this burger?" And I'm like,
God, yeah.
Fuck off.
Oh my God.
Honestly, fucking hell. Would you like this burger? And later he goes, "I wish I had that burger now." I'm like, oh my God, why is this baby talk bullshit in here again?
Do you need a snack? I have a big belly burger.
Yeah,
it's
like
what
go
the
fuck yourself.
Yeah,
this
it
is
didn't make
such
any sense.
But this is why writers need to get out and do stuff. This just sounds like some kind of shit joke you see on Twitter. Wouldn't it be funny if we offered him a burger when he was unconscious? Fuck off.
Superman will have a burger. He's American.
Yeah.
That's
what it is. God. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I don't know if maybe having all three might change the aspect of it. It might be better. I don't know, but it didn't do anything for me. But I didn't actively hate it.
Yeah, same with me. I was surprised how much I liked it. I went in thinking, "Oh God, this is gonna be terrible." But I do like the ending when he looks up and he goes Daxmite, and because I'm a massive Legion fan, fucking hell, right, let's have this Daxmite there. Like you say, the Kandor thing was neither here nor there because you never get into what Kandor is. It's never nothing is fully explained around that sort of thing. But I kind of didn't hate it. I kind of like Barrows's work. I think this was a bit more rushed, but super detailed in places. Bits of the faces were rushed, but I didn't mind it. I'm going to introduce the next one if you don't mind, because I'm massively going to rant about this one.
Yeah, go for it.
So story 2 is Lois and Clark in love at work. In love, full stop, at work, full stop. That's a terrible title. Written by Rainbow Rowell, artist Kiam Tormi, I'm sure that's not how you say it, and colours by Romulo Fajards Jr. This is a 10-page story. The first 8 pages are boring ass people talking about their relationships. I talked about Rainbow Rowell recently. We were having a chat about her Savage Hulk's run, and I heard Tony Fleece talk about it on 11 O'Clock Comics, and he said she's got the talking bit right, but she can't do the action bit right. And I massively make him right on this.
Yeah.
To start a Superman story off in Action Comics, the big Superman title that people are reading for fun and adventure, to have a domestic conversation and like frozen argument kind of freeze each other out thing for 8 pages of 10-page stories, a massive mistake. It was at one point the last 2 pages Superman goes and has to save Jimmy and another lady from the Daily Planet from something that happens, and he has to, is it Atomic Skull who's the person? Atomic Skull. The only reason we know it's the Atomic Skull because someone says it on the page before he flies off, and then the Atomic Skull is literally 3 lines on a page. You can't make him out in the distance. Then he saves 2 people from falling, and then that's the end of it. It is an absolute way. I mean, I don't know.
That's a part 2 as well. That's a part 2 as well. I've only just realised.
Right.
I didn't realise that was a part 2 as well. But still, I think I'd said to you there was something that she'd got right in it, and it wasn't anything to do with the writing, and it wasn't anything really. I'd said the idea, but that wasn't what I meant.
Right.
The thing that I think she got right in it was with putting Clark Kent on those kind of pieces, because he is slowly getting to see some of the citizens in which he would save. So he was seeing the more mundane aspect of it. But that is me clutching at fucking straws.
The way I read that is him being put in his place because he has to accept that his wife is now his boss.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, and that was actually put. That is put on Front Street.
That's more front and center.
Yeah, that is front and center. It was a wry little smile that the artist had put in with Clark at one point with Jimmy on his shoulder. There was another bit of him covering like certain funerals and stuff like that as well. And I just thought it's given at least Superman a chance to see like the actual citizens, as opposed to going about and doing like these big massive pieces or whatever and doing this. He's actually just seeing like what he's protecting and who he's trying to save and stuff like that. And I thought that's great, but that's me clutching at straws. That's not put explicitly. That's not even really kind of subtly hinted at. And I think that's less to do with the writing and more to do with the artist like drawing those pages and wanting to draw them in these kind of situations. But the problem is he's drawn them so boringly leading up to it that it just looks like he's bored. So instead of it looking like this thing where they could have done that and made it eventually look like he's looking at all of them and getting a wee bit more happy as he goes on or something, they've made him look bored shitless and then have a little kind of grin. You know what I mean? And like you say, there is those action bits at the end, but it's 2 pages. Superman does nothing except from fly one panel, quickly to pick somebody up and drop them on a roof, and that's it.
Yeah.
So literally, it's a story where Superman sits on his arse,
looks sad,
then looks a wee bit excited at the start, and then a bit puzzled, and then flies off.
It's like sits at the breakfast table, lays in bed looking sad, gets in a lift. And then 2 pages he flies off, so someone flies back in. I almost feel like this is the middle 10 pages from a 50-page book.
Yeah,
I think Rainbow Rowell, as I understand it, comes from YA fiction writing, and now writes for Marvel and DC. I'm still not sure whether anyone has ever said to her the structure of a comic needs to be different from the structure of a novel. Because she does this with I joked with the boys about it the other day. She does this in Savage Hulk, where it had a whole sequence where Jack of Hearts makes her a cake, and you're like, this is different. This is comics. That may fly in YA, may fly on perhaps webtoons, but this is a comic that people are spending £5 on, if not more. And it's a Superman comic. We want our bang for our buck.
I was
around
going to
it.
say I've read a comic by hers that I did enjoy at one time called Pumpkinheads,
Oh, okay, I've
which
not read
was
that.
all about it was all about kids working at a kind of Halloween slash autumn pumpkin patch. It's a young adult graphic novel or whatever, you know what I mean? It's very similar kind of style, like artist wise and stuff like that as well. Very similar kind of writing, you know. It's very sort of paced out. It's a kind of medium-ish size graphic novel, quite quick. You can pace through it, right? It works for that.
Yeah,
That kind of writing works for that because it is a lot like the setting and everything. It's a lot of sitting about on little like horse riding or whatever. It's about two. The whole thing is about the friendship of two people. You know what I mean? So you get off with it, and that makes sense. I've read plenty of books where it's been a lot of people just sitting about like chatting and getting to
yeah.
know each other and reading. Doesn't work in a Superman comic.
We had exactly the same problem with Runaways. Do you remember when we read that? Which was she
Yes,
was the writer.
God,
She was the
yes,
writer of it, and
yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah,
just a lot of talking heads.
yeah.
And there's a difference. I mean, no matter what you think about Bendis, he does say something that I always think about is page one, drop him into the action,
Yeah.
and page one, we dropped him into the breakfast table on this one.
I
Yeah,
would genuinely be interested to find out like an actual kid's like viewpoint on this.
yeah.
I'd love to see what they thought of it. Like give them it and say like what do you think? Like and see if they actually genuinely liked it. If they went like, "Oh, I like seeing Superman like sitting with
Having
these."
marital problems at the breakfast table. I
I,
mean,
I,
what editor says, yeah, run with that, Rainbow? Yeah, I'm gonna write the story where they sit about for 8 pages having marital problems. Yeah,
does he
go with
does he
that.
does their kid even say anything or does he just leave the room? Oh no, he does say something. He has one line.
Yeah,
That's great. That's fantastic. So have your child there who's, if I remember rightly, also a superhero of some
yeah,
sort.
he's
I've
Superman
not.
as well.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's
Okay.
Superman now, my friend.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone. Yeah.
See, this shows you how long it's been since I've actually read a Superman comic because I've been so let down. I've just left it. Um, but yeah, so you're going to have two superpowered people at a table with an editor of a newspaper, and then that's it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's run with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Let's stop. Let's not call this Action Comics anymore. Let's remember the first word of that title: Action
yeah.
Comics. Let's call this sitting about a breakfast table comics. I
Do you
knew
know
this
what?
would get ranty with you. You know, I knew it would
Yeah,
happen.
but the thing is though, I would even let this off if it was like a Lois Lane book or something like that.
Right.
Like
Okay.
if this was Lois Lane, this was DC Comics Lois Lane title, I'd be
If
like,
this was
oh,
Lois Lane Crime or Lois Lane Vertigo, I'd understand it because
I
it's more about emotional. About
yep,
relationships. If this was, I mean, Lois Lane mainstream back in the Bronze Age was, suddenly she'd be shrunken in a world
yeah.
full of wizards or something. Yeah, it
The
actually had something. Yeah,
Unfortunately, Lois hasn't been like that for quite
yeah.
some time. So like, but I would understand it if that was the case because then I would be thinking about it personally. If I see the name Rainbow Rowell and I see Lois Lane, I'm thinking, okay, it's like a YA
Yeah,
DC book or
exactly.
something.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fine, cool. And then I don't. I get it in
Action
with
Comics.
Action Comics with a cover of Superman flying and running alongside a locomotive,
Yeah.
and I get a dinner table scene, an office scene,
A
uh,
lift scene. They're in the lift at one
yeah,
point. Yeah.
a lot of standing with Jimmy, which might add those pages, like I said, he's seeing everything, but it is just focused on them
Oh,
just
but
standing, doing
you're
nothing.
missing the point. There's a cute pug on one of the
Oh
pages.
God, yeah, fucking hell. I saw that and was like, Jesus Christ, what a way to do it, honestly. There's also a veteran getting a medal at one
Yeah.
point as well. A funeral, obviously, because Clark would be invited to stand at a funeral. Just a fucking nobody's funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would invite the reporter.
Because he
Right
needs
enough,
those.
that makes sense.
Don't get me wrong. Superman needs those lessons. He's defended the planet numerous times. He's died for the planet. He needs these lessons. That's what he needs. He needs to go and see a girl on a pogo stick. That's all that he needs.
I,
You know.
I I I like that. Honestly, I would have forgiven it had they been crafted a bit better. Had
Yeah.
it been like you saw him like realizing, like he's if you find out that like the first part of this story was loads of action and he was looking fucking like he was just
Yeah.
getting like beat up by the fact that it
You're
was like
burnt
so
out.
much.
Yeah.
Yep, and now he's being put on like no, see who you're doing this for or whatever, something like that would be
But
great.
no, you
Let's-
can't tell. You can't tell you can't be told by your wife, who's now your boss. So I'm going to make you go to all these things. Yeah, you're right, man. Or even if at the end of it, she'd have taken her face off and he'd been lying in bed with the toy master or something all this time, I'd be like, yes, here we go.
That'd be great.
Superman had his trunks pulled down on that one.
After all of that, and he goes back in to see Lois. Lois, where are you? It's just me, Mr. Mistleblick.
Oh my God! Now I'm thinking of Mike Sedaka.
Yeah.
Right,
I'd love to put him in a top hat.
Oh, that's got to be his next, because I've seen him dressed as a penguin.
Yep.
Yeah, that's got to be his next one. But yeah, okay. So I'm going to say we've got Hate. What have we got next? So Hate's probably the best thing we've talked about.
Yeah.
Peep Show second.
Yep.
X Factor, Superman third. X Factor last.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's the way it goes for me as well. Yeah, I think
I
we're going
have
to agree.
I have to remind you as well with the comic on app.
Oh yeah. So on X Factor, we forgot to mention that, didn't we? So I was chatting to Vince and Dan about this earlier. On one of the pages, this will be in the physical copy as well. It refers you to an Infinity comic on the Marvel app, which means I think I'm right in saying that you have to have the Marvel app to read those.
Yes.
So the physical comic and the Comixology comic, which you buy individually, are pushing you to a subscription service to read the rest of the story. Now, that's cynical old Esmond, conspiracy theory Esmond seems to think that all comics now will end up on the Marvel app at some point.
I would have thought so.
That kind of indicates that to me as possibly a plan.
That would be the equivalent, though, of buying a Paramount-based DVD and having it come up at the start. Please go to the Paramount app to watch the rest of this film or whatever. You'd be like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean, that's the equivalent of that, though. You know what I mean?
It is.
You want to find out the rest of this storyline? Go to the Paramount app.
When I buy the Blu-ray Star Trek collection, it says now you have to go to the website to see this extra episode. Yeah. It's and the other thing we didn't mention with the X Factor is the last page with the QR code. So there's a whole page which is a QR code, which takes you to the website to show you a whole page, which is a continuation of the story. Yeah. Now that just seems mad. I'll be interested to see whether they put that whole page from the website on in collected editions and hardbacks and omnibuses and stuff.
It'd be hilarious if it was still the QR code.
Fuck me.
That would give me a good laugh.
That's madness.
That would give me a good. What would be better is if they put the page with the QR code and then followed it up with the page that you go to the website on and the QR code.
Yeah, they'll probably do that.
Yeah. And then so you'd go on it and then you go, oh, I've got that. Like what's it? Well, I've got it. What the fuck is this? You know?
Or when they put it on the app, you go to the Marvel app and it's got the QR code on the app.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck me. What's going on here?
I'd love it. I'd love it. It'd just wind people up. It'd be fucking great. Because I do think at this stage, having all the Marvel ones that we spoke about Punisher and Sabretooth before as well. I honestly do think the Marvel are just in the business of winding their fucking fans up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I think that's what they're in the business of. It's nothing else. It's it's not making.
How can we irritate people who've been buying our comics for fucking 40 years? How can we really get up their noses this week?
How can we make these as inaccessible as possible?
Yeah.
Have no incentive to continue forward. Oh, I know. We'll put a QR code on a fucking full page. Jesus.
And apparently, one of the weeks they forgot to add the image on the website.
Yeah,
for a couple of days. Yeah.
I half expected to do the QR code and it to come up to some fucking like game or something that you played.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, now play the Marvel fucking card game on your iPhone,
the new
or whatever.
Spider-Man video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I half expected that, but no, it was actually something that was meant to tie in. Which, Jesus, they still haven't learned. They did that back in the day with was it? It was like they handed out like little codes in the collections. It was like, now you can keep this book on this like app or something like that. And you went and did it, and it just didn't load. It never loaded. So it was fucking useless.
I'm not. The prime. I think I sent it to you. I can't remember I did, but the prime example is when we were scanning through for covers, the IDW comic that was out that very day they still hadn't loaded the cover image up onto the advert for it.
Yeah.
And I think I included a screenshot of that saying that IDW couldn't run a bath if they tried.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much like that. But I mean, I'm not one of these guys who goes, I don't need streaming services because look at these 1,000 Blu-rays I've got. I'm not one of those blokes, but I'm a little bit with comics. Yeah. A little bit with comics around that, okay, I do love the Marvel reading app. I make the most of it, and all the reading apps, I find them really useful to me. But the fact things do come and go from there. So, for example, the Master of Kung Fu series just disappeared off there.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've got I've got 2 runs of the original. I've got the, whatever, hardbacks and softbacks and stuff. But it's an unreliable resource that is convenient, but will shock you into what they haven't got sometimes.
Oh God, yeah. I think that. I mean, it happens with everything now. It happens with absolutely everything. Everything's on Netflix and Spotify and everything. Like, you'll just suddenly want to listen to something or watch something. It's just not there.
Neil Young was the one. I'm a big Neil Young fan.
Yeah.
And he just went, I don't like Spotify because Joe Rogan's on there. And he pulled all his stuff. Have you noticed it's all back there now?
Oh yeah,
quietly.
Well, he couldn't do that forever. He started losing money.
I think it's his main income, isn't it? Yeah.
He's like, oh shit.
I've got Daryl Hannah to look after now.
Yeah.
Who said she's his wife now? Daryl Hannah is Neil Young's wife.
I thought you were joking there, but
no,
really,
genuinely, yeah, it's his wife.
Oh right,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fair play. Yeah. Good on him.
Yeah, well done, mate.
But yeah, the films thing as well. Like, it's they just disappear. You know what I mean? Like all the time. But I don't need them anyway. It doesn't matter. I've got them on DVD.
Yeah, I know. So somebody will decide that Vulcans are racist, and all Star Trek will disappear at some point.
Oh yeah, fuck it. So, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it.
Vulcans are racist. I think that's the name of the next tribute press. Right. Good stuff, mate. Thank you for that. That was a nice little bag. I think we might try and do this regularly. I know we said that last time, but it'd be good fun to do this every so often.
We did say that 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. We did an episode about how we never throw comics out, but we do now. And one of the comics you got me to buy in that one made it into the recycling.
Hey.
Yes. Yeah. There's two have gone in there this week. Yeah.
Oh really?
I sent you the video of one of them.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good stuff. So let's say our goodbyes because we're now almost at an hour and a half. We'll keep it to an hour. So where can people find you, man, if they want to look for you?
If you go to Instagram, I will get the actual proper name of it because
we're all just on Instagram now, aren't we? Have you noticed?
Yeah,
we all just quite like it over there.
I always seem to mess this up all the time though and say the wrong thing. So if you go to @dogwalktom,
I like that one.
Yeah, and you'll be able to follow along with all the pictures of the dogs, cats, rabbits.
Who was the sausage dog you put on today? He was cool.
Oh, it's Percy.
Percy the sausage dog. I liked him.
I love Percy. Percy's my main man. I've walked him since he was a puppy.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
I love Percy. But yeah, like just get some wholesome animals into your Instagram feed for that. Otherwise, whilst it's still ongoing, at that comic smell on Instagram, and at most podcatchers, etc. just now. And like I say, it is on YouTube. I do have the episodes. They're way back in the 30s just now, but they are being uploaded one by one.
Yeah.
I'm just doing that just now because like I say, they're all ready and ready to go and everything now anyway, so it's fine. And it will come to an end eventually, but they'll still be there one way or another for you to listen to. I wouldn't want to get rid of them completely, and the Instagram feed will always still be there. I might not use it, but I'll be contactable through it or whatever. Oh, so cool. Yeah.
One of my favorite experiences in comics was sitting there with you four wankers doing that Mad magazine.
That was brilliant.
What a nice night. And then I got Mike to drive. Long story, but Mike drove me from the hotel up to your house, and on the way he made a number of sexual suggestions. I'm just going to say that. I told Dave about that, and he just went, "I'm eating a white sausage, Tony." I said, "Oh, right, nice one. That's what it's called, isn't it? White sausage? Is that
white pudding?
White pudding. I'm eating this white pudding. He ate white pudding, and then I got so I podcast with all of you guys. I was chatting to Nando about this the other day. The one that me and Nando did about the X books is like by about 3 times the most popular show we've ever done.
Oh yeah, you said that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
That's great.
Well, I think it's the late. A lot of gilfs listening to it because of Nando.
Oh god,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the ladies love Nando. I'll say that much.
Good stuff, man. I'd like to say I have an Instagram for, I can't remember what it is, but there's a Nelson Comics one. You can have a look at that. But my Instagram, which I think is locked off, but when you go to, when you go to that thing, like search, and it comes up with what your favourites are.
Yeah.
Mine is just chihuahuas because I'm such a hard, tough bloke. I've got a chihuahua dog. Comic books and people bashing shit out of each other. And I kind of think that's the three areas of my life that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, well, I think when I'm thinking about it just there, I think mine is flowers, ice hockey, and pictures of Dakota Johnson. So
who's Dakota Johnson?
That was Madame Web. That was.
Classic movie. I've not watched that yet. I've seen the start of it.
And 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, is she the same lady as in both those films?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just that. It's just literally that's just that. So that tells you something about me.
I forgot to add Jane McDonald as well in there. That's another one.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, similar. But how she could have played Madam Web.
Yes, she could have.
She'd have been good in that, I think.
It would have been. It would have been a
bit more Blackpool. Bit more Blackpool.
Yeah. Right, Spider-Man. Jesus Christ.
Drier than a flip-flop. I saw one where she was trying to find a pub. She was on this cruising with Jane McDonald. I thought, I've never really watched this. I go on about her all the time. I'm going to watch it. And it's when me and Cliff and Sarah were doing the comic, and she was walking around where the Hobbits are filmed in Lord of the Rings, and she says she kept asking where there was a pub. She wanted a drink. I said, this is brilliant. I love it. Yeah, good. So you can find me at Never On Anything. If every Wednesday there is a little column I write called Tops and Bottoms, where I put the best thing I've read, the worst thing I've read, and the best small press book, and then I ramble on about something else on it as well. Go and have a read of that. Readership on that has just fucking ballooned recently, so I don't know what's happened there. So thank you everyone who signed up. We've got a new sign up today. Good. Thanks, man. I'm sure we will continue chatting, but I'll hopefully see you in about a month with any luck.
Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. Big time.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, buddy.